to. But I go over, and be sure that that is horizontal. If you start falling off too soon, you see, then you get stuff like this. So you got to go over and then just make a nice big round O that connects up, leaving you with a little tail here. Somic. Iron is one of the harder ones to make. It looks kind of like a Y that got scrunched, right? And you can make it that way. You can actually make this, again, in print. It isn't quite that simple, but you can kind of do this as though you were making a V that's going to become a Y, except that when you get here, instead of going below the line, you kind of hit a wall and tuck it under. Okay, now that didn't turn out real well, but that's kind of the idea. It should be a little broader. Okay, oops, I'm having a bad iron day. All right, iron. Iron. Now the trouble with iron is that, guess what? It's the other letter we don't pronounce because we don't know how to pronounce it. And it gets transliterated by the reverse apostrophe mark. Please do not throw any more things at me. Okay? So how do you tell an ayin from an aleph? Well, one's apostrophe going one way and one's an apostrophe going the other way. But what's the difference in sound between an aleph and an ayin? None. You don't hear either one of them. All right. So this is another great mystery and problem. I call this a guttural stop as opposed to a glottal stop, and I'm not sure what that means other than I had to put something in a book. This is probably like the ba'al, except it's much deeper in the throat, kind of a gulping sound, like that. We know Ugaritic has a gryan. It's got both an ayin and a gryan. All right? We don't have a gryan. The gryan sound is a gulping sound. Okay? And we know this one. This is an interesting story. We know this. This is the G sound that you have in words like Sodom and Gomorrah, or the Gaza Strip today. All right? And the only reason those are all written with an ayin in Hebrew, probably reflecting the gryan sound that they didn't have in their alphabet, but probably had in their phonics. And the only reason we know all of this is because the Septuagint transliterates those names with a gamma, a G sound. So the Greek speakers heard a G sound there, even though in Hebrew you see an ayin sound. But that's the gryan, not an ayin. But it's probably something like a gulping sound without the gulp. All right. And again, this is what journal articles are made out of. Now, this is our fourth guttural. Okay. Because you could tell, you could smell a guttural a mile away here now, can't you? And I'm going to group these this way because the aleph and the ayin sort of make a pair. Right? They're both no sound. They're written with these goofy apostrophes. And when we see some of the peculiarities that happen to gutturals, they kind of work this way, all right, in pairs, and that'll all make sense later on. Okay, pay. Next letter. Pay, as you might have guessed, it is the P sound, the P sound, and it's written this way. It's really kind of a round, like a kaf was, except it's got a little hook in the top. Okay. Now you'll see that the printed P has the hook going in. Most handwritten P's have the hook going out. Doesn't matter. You can do it either way. The reason it goes out toward the left is because you're moving that way when you're going to go on to the next letter. Okay. But that's your pay. The other feature of the pay, well, another feature of the pay is, guess what? Here we have another Dagesh Lene letter. Okay. So we better add that to our list. We now have another Dagesh Lene. And with the pay, we have a nice distinction between the hard and the soft, and I told you about that before. The hard pay is P. The soft P is F, as in tela pahon, right? In fact, some people think that the H's in our English tradition are roughly equivalent to the softened consonants that you get with the Lackadagish forte. Now you can put an H after a letter like C, and it becomes softer. It becomes a ch sound. You put an H after a letter like P, and it becomes an F, as in telephone, right? That may be a similar phenomenon in English. Okay. All right. Sade. Oh, I forgot this, right? The pay also has a final form, right? And once again, it just sort of finishes it off below the line. So instead of rounding the first stroke around, you just go down and again below the line and then put your little hook in there. And again, the handwritten hook goes the other way, generally speaking. There's your final pay. It looks pretty weird. Now Sade. All right, Sade is hard to make. Again, it's really this simple. It's a diagonal all the way down, then a nice horizontal stroke along the writing line, and then a diagonal in at about halfway down, 45-degree angle. Actually making a 90-degree angle there. All right, there's a Sade. When students make bad Sades, it's because they start doing this. You don't go all the way down. See how that end starts looking goofy? It's kind of a levitating Sade, a rising Sade. He's got to be kneeling Sades. This is a S. It's a hard TS sound. Okay. In some transcriptions, especially if you have a typewriter or word processor, they can't put a dot under a letter. They'll transcribe this as TS because it's the S sound. But the normal transcription is S with a dot under it. And we have a final Sade, which is really just a vertical line then with your diagonal stuck in like that. Sade, down and over. Okay. Samik, ayin, pay, Sade. Those four are always a problem. Now we get to Q and R. Kof and Resh. Okay, Kof is tricky here. Kof is a vertical line that goes below the line. I've gone way too far here. I've exaggerated. And now the second stroke never touches the first stroke. It starts just above it, makes a nice circle, and then stops just short of the line again and curves away. All right, and curves away. Some people make a Kof almost with a kick out there, just to make you see that it hasn't touched. And I see I touched there. That would be sloppy. Okay, Kof. Kof. Here's a Hebrew word I remember seeing.